On today's show, we take a look at the busiest Monday in recent memory, how our D line got some reinforcements, and why our O line is definitely needing some help now. We also take a look at the final look at Jimmy G's career in the Bay. Remember, as always, you can listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. You're inside the Johnny Dell's Football Academy. Hello, once again, Niner faithful, and welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy, the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game. And whew, man, what a Monday! You talk about an action-packed Monday. We have not seen a Monday like this. Mr. Johnny Dell, what is happening? Look, I'm not going to ask you how your weekend is. I don't care anymore. Okay, we're talking Monday right now.
Yeah, man, what a Monday. Hey guys, if you're in the chat real quick, put hashtag JD in the chat. The reason why we say that is the more active the chat is, the more that the algorithms will actually recommend this show and the video to other people. So if you can just do us a favor, it's one way, it's cheap and easy way you can support the channel real fast. Just say hashtag JD in the chat. It's just a way that we can help build the channel here. But man, yeah, it has been a crazy Monday. We actually recorded a show this morning. We were going to record a show because usually my Mondays, I'm pretty busy on Monday. And the only time I usually have is in the mornings to then have time in the morning to record, and then we'll post the video at night so it launches when everybody's a little more active. And so one thing we did this morning was we recorded a show. We were talking a little bit of like free agency preview because we weren't thinking that the 49ers were going to make a big splash today. We didn't think that the 49ers were like going to do this huge thing. I didn't foresee it happening. I thought that they were just going to go about business as usual, and really we were going to see everything in the kind of second level or second phase free agency, when you see the big names go and then you have the second tier free agents start getting signed and all of that. So we just recorded a show, and then it was like 2 hours later. I was busy working here at my office, and I was literally tearing up a threshold. I got plywood everywhere. I'm cutting 2x4s and everything, and Adam texted me. He's like, dude, we need to do another show tonight. And I was like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like what's the deal? What did I
We
miss?
can't
And
leave
he was
people
like,
hanging.
you have no idea. And that's when I hopped on Twitter and I saw just like the Hargrave signing, and then it was like just after that the avalanche of news coming out. So it's an interesting day, and we're gonna dive into all of it. This has maybe been the most exciting or busiest free agent Monday that we've had as a 49ers fan base in quite a while. Wouldn't you say, Adam?
Yeah, that's why I text you and was like, dude, did you see? I mean, everything that went down. And honestly, I want to just get into it because we have a lot of info to go over, a lot through the chat. I'm seeing the chat go crazy. We're gonna get to everything, guys. I want to go outside in. So I want to go as far away from the Bay that we can, and then get into our division, and then we'll hammer out everything for what happened in the Bay. So one of the top stories that I think is a little bit crazy is the Jets and the Packers basically have a deal done and to get Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, but then the only problem is we literally have no idea what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. So everything is set. Have you seen this before where two sides have a deal and then you're like, "Hey, do you want to do this deal?" and he hasn't said yet. Like, what is that about?
I don't really know. Like I think that's a rather unprecedented thing. For some reason, sorry, but space on my computer launched a screen recorder. I don't even know how that happened. I didn't even touch anything. It's the glitches in the system. They're even
Right.
freaking out because of all the news today.
I know.
But yeah, it's this crazy thing, and it's also one reason I think why there was just no real interest in Aaron Rodgers this year from the 49ers. Like, he's just gonna take his time, do what he does. I've never seen two teams like have a deal in place and then just sit there and kind of say, okay, whenever you get around to making a decision. And I mean, it puts the Jets in a weird place because do you pass up on a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers to go after one of the guys that's available now? And did they lose out on maybe going after Jimmy Garoppolo or Derek Carr or somebody that is definitely an upgrade over what they have now? Um, or do you sit here and play the waiting game with Aaron Rodgers, who could just decide to retire? I mean, he could look at the weapons that they have in New York and just say, nah. I mean, I know there's the connection there with him and Hackett. So, that's interesting. But, overall, that's kind of crazy just for them just sitting there like just waiting on Aaron Rodgers with his slick back hair and joining
Well,
and Pat McAfee
it's
show, right?
a la Brett Favre. Like, wouldn't you learn a thing or two from him on not to do it that way? I don't understand. But well, it's just a saga that is just kind of we can kind of sit back and laugh as we're not fully invested, obviously, in the Packers or the Jets. We do enjoy success from Robert Saleh, but it's a little just odd to see. A few other transactions and news and notes. We talked about this in the show that got scrapped earlier. Like, I would today, and guys, don't the chat. I hope doesn't go crazy.
Oh, I hope it
Remember
does. I hope
to
it does.
no,
Like,
remember to like and
let him have
follow.
it. Let him
If
have it
you
if he
guys
says something.
if you're live on YouTube, don't blow me up in the chat. If you are catching this later, don't send a million comments if you're listening on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. But I know the chat is just waiting. What am I going to say? I will take Adam Thielen over Third and Juwan. I'm sorry. I will. It's nothing against Third and Juwan. I even called him Third and Juwan. Why? Because I love him. But I'm just telling you that the way that this guy runs routes, the way he blocks, the way that he carries himself as a professional, I will take Adam Thielen over Third and Juwan. And it's no dig to Third and Juwan. Please hear that. I'm just saying the Vikings just cut, Adam Thielen, and I will take him. That's okay. And Eric Norris, oh, we gonna blow it up in the chat. Here they come.
Yeah. So okay, chat, let us know. Would you take Adam Thielen or Third and Juwan? Give us a Third and
Let us
Juwan if
know.
that's who you're going to take. Give us a Thielen if you're going to take Thielen. Personally, I agree with you, Adam. I think Juwan Jennings. Now look, Shanahan has talked about the analytics show that Juwan Jennings on third down creates more separations than is always like first or second or third in the league in separation on third downs. That's one reason why they call him Third and Juwan. And so that's one thing that is Thielen going to be that reliable third down guy. Now I think he can be because when you look at who Adam Thielen has been, he's never been that deep speed receiver. He's never been a guy that just wins by explosiveness. So I think Thielen is a guy that can win by savvy route running, which we haven't always had. Okay, Ayuk is a good route runner. He's been getting better. Thielen is a master route runner because that's always how he's gotten open. He's a very, very polished route runner. He sees the field like a quarterback, and he's also a scrappy blocker. Juwan Jennings has been a scrappy blocker at times, but he has also cost us some things in different moments. I've seen different things on tape where Juwan Jennings it was like if he makes that block, man, it goes really big. And it's just one of those that if it's me, man, I'm taking Thielen all day. at this stage of his career, he should come cheap. Like there was a reason he was a cap casualty. He's 32. He's on the back end of his career. He's not going to be an explosive big time receiver. But what it reminds you of is like an Emmanuel Sanders, that
Yep.
he's not going to be that explosive guy down the field, but a veteran presence who will do everything that you ask him to do. And it's a guy that I think would be a great second tier free agent that the 49ers can take advantage of another team's cap casualties.
No question. I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying, hey, man, that'd be, we talk about a wish list, like, hey, that'd be fun. And again, we're just going over the news and notes of the league, working our way back into the Niners, guys. Calais Campbell from the Raves is gone, and they said in their farewell tweet that they're open to him coming back. I'm sure they would like that, but that's kind of interesting too. We'll see where he goes. What do you think of Calais Campbell as of right now?
If it was me, I wouldn't pick him at this stage in his career. Basically in fewer snaps last season, Samson and Ebicom had about the same kind of production. So, I don't see any upside there. Yes, he's been a veteran guy who has done a lot of great things in this league. He is not the player that you're thinking of when you think of a Calais Campbell. There's a reason why the Ravens, they were either looking to do a restructured deal where he took a pay cut. This is a way for them to force a pay cut on him if he wants to come back. That, you can go and see if somebody will pay you what you think you're worth, but we're not going to pay you that. And so if you want to come, at a cheaper price, go ahead.
Yeah. Some other news and notes, guys, just going down the line real quick. Steelers agreed to a 2-year deal with Patrick Peterson, former Cardinal, and the Bucks may be interested in Baker Mayfield, which takes us to our division where we will start with Baker Mayfield's team. The Rams obviously lose Ramsey to Miami, and am I saying this right? Obo Okoronkwo goes to the Browns. And so the Rams are just like in peril. I mean, I kind of want the Rams to keep Baker just because that he's not very good.
You know, that's a situation that's really fascinating because you really sit here and go, why did the Rams bring him in last year? I mean, if they were bringing him in for a 4-week rental, was it really a tryout? I mean, why did they bring him in and end up using cap space that they could have rolled over into this season, and now they're in a place where they're having to dump cap space? Like it just seems like wonderful for us move by the Rams last year. And then the Rams, what's up, man? What's up, Patrick? But wonderful news for us that you have Jalen Ramsey going to the Dolphins. And again, you're seeing, we all talked about for years that it was eventually going to catch up to the Rams, how they were going about building their team, trading all those first round picks, giving away all those big contracts. Because when you trade away those first round picks, you're not only giving up the player you will get, you're getting them on a cheap contract. So if you're trading for a player with a first round pick, you not only have to give away that first round pick, you also have to pay them. They traded Jalen Ramsey away for a third round pick and a tight end who had like one catch last year.
A tight end you've never heard of.
Right. I mean, it's basically
It wasn't Gasecki.
right. It's basically a situation where the Rams had to take a little bit of that cap space back. I mean, that's basically where it's at. Or just a developmental guy. Like it feels almost like when in baseball when there's a big trade and then it involves somehow a double A guy. Like that's kind of what it feels like. So that's something that I love to see. The Rams are doing that. And Baker Mayfield to the Buccaneers. That's an interesting one. Do they really see Baker as a starter? Is that really where we're at? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and we'll get more into that when we talk about Jimmy. But some more news and notes in our division: the Seahawks part ways with their defensive tackle Harris, as does the Arizona Cardinals say farewell to Zach Allen. He's off to Denver. The only bright spot in our division, if you could say, is Kelvin Beachum was basically kind of the bright spot for the Cardinals as far as one of their only offensive linemen to play the majority of the snaps, and he re-signed a 2-year deal. And so now it's all going to be Niners, guys. So buckle in, all Niners all day. Let's get into it. The first big signing, I think, that kind of broke us to the point where, like, okay, we definitely need to talk about this, is Javon Hargrave. I want to give some news and notes here. Basically, he's in 5 straight seasons. This guy's had 4 or more sacks, and he's generated 35 or more pressures in 4 straight years. And his productivity is more than Hassan Ridgeway, Kevin Givens, Akeem Spence, and T.Y. McGill combined, basically. All those guys I just named are may not be back except for Givens, who did sign a year deal. Remember, he's out of Penn State from 2019. So go ahead. The mic is yours. Give us all your thoughts on Hargrave.
So we talked about this right before we went live. Hargrave was a guy who hit my radar when I was scouting the Eagles before the NFC Championship game. I was watching a lot of Eagles tape, and one thing that jumped off the film to me, and I'm going to try and do a video showing a lot of this stuff over the next few days to get it out, was Hargrave, because he was so disruptive in the middle that he was the guy that allowed so many of the one-on-ones on the outside, and with like Brandon Graham, that those guys were able to get one-on-ones because they he was so disruptive on the interior. And I talked about this with Wayne Breezy when we were both at the Senior Bowl. We were out to dinner, and we were talking about different things. And one thing, Wayne looked at me. He's sitting across the table, and in that wonderful Wayne voice, if y'all watch Wayne's show, you know I'm talking. He goes, "Man, we got to get another defensive tackle. Like, we got to get a Chris Jones, man. We got to get a guy in there that can be that." And I said, "Yeah, we do. I mean, the hope is that Kinlaw is there." I said, "If he's not, I think a guy like Hargrave can be that." I said, "I just don't know if we can afford him." That was what I said there. And as I started looking at over the next few weeks in our cap situation, I really started to feel like, man, I think Hargrave would be the most realistic option. I know Daron Payne was getting thrown out there. I did not see Daron Payne leaving Washington. I just didn't see it happening. They were in a situation where they were going to be able to keep him. Philadelphia is in a situation where they were going to have to say goodbye to a number of guys because they need to pay Jalen Hurts, and they've paid a lot of guys. They have a lot of free agents, and as we're seeing, several of them depart. So it was a situation. I said Hargrave is going to go somewhere and get paid. I'm just not sure we're going to be able to pay him, but we did at $21 million a year. And we are getting one of the top defensive tackles in the league to pair with Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead. And one thing we know from 2019, we were able to generate so much pressure when you had two guys on the interior and a guy on the edge. Now, when Dee Ford was there too, I mean, it was just almost unfair. But we didn't have Dee Ford for a lot of the season, and the pass rush production was still pretty good, and the run defense production was still really good. And and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Javon Kinlaw. I almost feel like this speaks to it reminds me of the 49ers drafting Trey Lance when Jimmy Garoppolo just proved he could not stay on the field. Is that you have a situation where you have a guy that you may like and has had some good moments, but there's also been some very poor moments and moments where you can't count on them being on the field. Those two things combined outweigh the good and the promise you have. So I think that's where the 49ers say, look, we're not going to bank on you because you've shown that we can't bank on you. And so they go and they solidify a spot that they value highly. Now I saw Mike Silver put out a tweet where he was kind of dogging the 49ers or trolling in some way, about how this is basically the same deal that they should have given to Buckner, that Buckner got, and that now they're just paying this to a guy that's not as on Buckner's level. And I have issues with that, because you're talking quite quite a ways back in difference in cap back, that when Buckner got that deal, 21 million a year was it was near the top of the league as far as defensive tackles. You have Aaron Donald, who's making like $34 million a year right now. Okay. So this is about 66% of the top tier um, defensive tackle market. You're looking at, around 9% of the cap, whereas back then, back when it was 21 mil a year was something like 12 or 13% of the cap. That's a big difference. Okay. So
Right.
no, this is not the same deal. So Silver can stick it where the sun don't shine on that one. And so, Dr. Brule gets it. He says it's 3 years later, different money now. It is. It's just different money. That's like saying that a quarterback getting 27.5 million now is the same contract that Jimmy Garoppolo got when he got his. No, it's not. When Jimmy signed his, 27.5 million was the highest in the league. Now it's 45, 50 million, right?
Now Daniel
So
Jones is like
Daniel
would laugh
Jones
at
got
that.
40. I mean,
Yeah,
come
get out
on,
of here.
Daniel
Yeah.
Jones, like,
It is
um,
different.
but I love the Hargrave signing. I think it's great. It'll be interesting to see how they structured it out and what they have to do and how they structure Bosa's contract, because they will not let Bosa walk. They
There's
have the
no
ability to keep Bosa. What people do forget is that we can actually save money this season with a Bosa contract because of where his 5th-year option is slotted. So if we give him an extension, we can lower the base salary this season and actually drop his cap hit this season. So yes, we can definitely afford to have Nick Bosa sign him as well and do what we're doing. The question becomes, now how do we save in some other areas? That'll be the idea going forward. But this is also why you drafted a Trey Lance and why you believe in a Brock Purdy, is because when you have quarterbacks on a rookie contract, these are the aggressive moves you can make. And these are the things that you can stock the whole team. And it's showing again the value of having a quarterback on a rookie contract.
no question. And the details for Hargrave is 4 years, 84 million, includes 40 million guaranteed, per sources. That's from Shefty. But yeah, definitely love that pickup. Let's talk about some more additions, and then we'll get into some of the subtractions as we say goodbye to some guys. So Sam Darnold was kind of one of those guys that was looked at the time that we got Jimmy. And a lot of people either didn't know that or they kind of forget. But so that's why this may not be as big of a surprise as you may think. And he has had a rough go when you look at the Jets. They provided him absolutely no help. They kind of hung him out to dry, but then he had some sparks there with Carolina, and then he also kind of had some duds moments in Carolina. But we bring him in. What are your thoughts?
I love it as a third string quarterback. I mean, because that's what essentially what he's going to be, is that you end up getting a guy who has started a lot of games in this league, and I mean he's had some moments, but we're not asking him to be the franchise savior. We're not asking him to be the franchise what if savior. We're asking him to be the guy that can you go in and can you win us one or two games. I mean, that's really like in an absolute pinch.
Right? Can you
And
be a Colt McCoy for us if we
right,
need it? Like,
right. And we saw him, when he was with Carolina and healthy, that it was looking like a resurgence of Sam Darnold, and then things kind of started to fall apart. But it's a guy that physically the tools have never been in question. He's got an NFL caliber arm. He's got good athleticism. The classic, he can make all the throws. And he gets to be in a low pressure situation. And he's away from the New York media. maybe that turns out to be a great thing. And in the end, it's just one of those days where you go, the 49ers quarterback room got better. They didn't get worse. The quarterback room got better, and that's all you can hope for, right? Well, you want the best quarterback room you can build, and I love it.
Yeah, I like the move too, as the guy has played a lot of NFL football, way more than Nate Sudfeld, is better than Nate Sudfeld. And I think he knows the situation. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of bad blood or controversy or, well, he's really hoping he can be the number one. I don't think a guy like that, is going to come in here and be anything like that. I think it's going to be it's going to work out for him as far as, hey, it's an NFL job. You're getting paid. If you hold a clipboard, you hold a clipboard. Sam Darnold strikes me as a Kellen Moore, a Jason Garrett, who will have a fine career coaching in the NFL. That is Sam Darnold. He will be the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns in 2030. Like, who would be surprised at that? Absolutely no one, right? So, hey, get that guy on your team. That's, not bad at all. So, we'll see what happens as the rehab goes for our other quarterbacks in the quarterback room. Um, did we gain anyone else? I'm looking at my notes. Is it time to talk about the subtractions? A lot of people are happy to talk about the one I know, and you called it completely, saying, "Hey guys, you want to talk a lot of smack about some of the mistakes that Mike McGlinchey has made over his time from the NFL." And I live in Notre Dame country, and a lot of Notre Dame fans were telling me, "Oh, you'll regret drafting Mike McGlinchey," and he just got a 5-year, $87.5 million deal to go block for Russell Wilson. um, I I don't know how I feel about it necessarily. Like, I know he's made some bad plays and there's footage of it. I get it that you've shown us, but I I don't know. It's still a loss for us, and I don't know if we move, our center over to go play there, and then, like, what are we doing? I'm not
Right.
sure.
So here's the thing is that I've been saying it for a few weeks now that I felt like the 49ers fan base that Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy Garoppolo are viewed very similarly by our fan base. That they're one, undervalued by our own fan base. Two, they are we understand why we feel that way. Um, the mistakes that both of these guys have made is have been brutal and hit us hard. Mike McGlinchey, it is not hard to find bad reps by Mike McGlinchey. Um, on the other hand, Mike McGlinchey has put up a lot of good reps. A lot of them, though, like you don't necessarily see now. But with that being said, I think the 49ers absolutely did make the right choice in not paying him 17.5 million per year. Okay. Because there was like that makes Mike McGlinchey the fourth highest paid right tackle in the league. So I love Mike McGlinchey. I don't think he's the fourth best right tackle. I thought he was going to get paid 15 or 16. That's where I thought he was going to get paid. That's what I was foreseeing this whole time. And I thought that was going to surprise a lot of 49ers fans. And I mean, you heard it. We were here. I said it's going to raise some eyebrows. People are going to be surprised at what Mike McGlinchey gets paid. But he and again, I think it speaks to we don't pay attention to who all the right tackles are in the league. That there's not a lot of good right tackles. And so we look at Mike McGlinchey and say, oh man, Mike McGlinchey is garbage. But you could also, if you were on about 25 other teams, you would look at your right tackle and say, man, our right tackle is garbage. Like Kelvin Beachum is an example. Like you'll say, we look at him and say, Kelvin Beachum, he's a pretty solid right tackle. If you look at his tape compared to Mike McGlinchey's tape, you would if you put them side by side and watched 1,000 reps of of Beecham and 1,000 reps of Mike McGlinchey, you're going to walk away and say Mike McGlinchey is head and shoulders better than Beecham. I watched a lot of Beecham's tape this year because I watched like 6 Cardinals games this year. Beecham is not the same kind of player as Mike McGlinchey. Again, we feel his mistakes, but he is a much better player than Beecham. But again, it's about perception on teams, on guys that we see all the time. So we do undervalue guys that make mistakes that hurt us, and so hurt people. So we want to go and bag on Mike McGlinchey. But like there's just not a lot of great right tackles in the league, and there's not a lot of great right tackles coming out of college. The question is going to be, how do we improve this position? And that's something I do believe that they believe in Colton McKivitz, because they drafted him, I think, to be Mike McGlinchey's replacement. I think they knew they were going to see McGlinchey go, and they drafted Colton McKivitz. And I would not be surprised if he's the guy they plug in, or they maybe look for a second tier free agent to come in and compete in that spot. But we only have to realize like what it means when you don't have a Mike McGlinchey. I just challenge everybody, go back and really watch that Green Bay game, 2021 playoffs, where we were in Green Bay. It was freezing cold, and watch what Rashawn Gary did to Compton. Okay. When Mike McGlinchey wasn't there, the pressure that they were getting off that right tackle side was so bad. And it was at that point you were wishing we had Mike McGlinchey in there. And so, I think if I'm around the league, there's not a lot of great right tackles. They were going to have Mike McGlinchey was going to get paid, and the 49ers knew it. They knew it. And so, I'm not surprised he got paid at all.
Yep. Hey, quick reminder, guys. Remember, thank you, Jason, for that. Hashtag JD. We want to get the algorithms going if you are watching live. And remember, if you didn't catch us live, it might be because you are not subscribed. So please make sure that you like and subscribe. Thank you for all of you that are in the chat right now. If you're catching us later, remember to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are live Monday night, March 13th. Let's stay in it. So we also
And also
are,
make sure you have your notifications turned on.
yes, you need the
That's one
bell to
thing.
go off.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one thing I see with the algorithms. I got a lot of subscribers, but not a lot of people with the notifications turned on.
Yeah. So get those turned on so that because this is always so fun. We always look forward to being able to go live and be in the chat with you guys. So thank you again so much. So again, let's stay in it here. So we talked earlier, before we recorded earlier this morning, about just how excited I am when I see videos of guys hanging out and being buddies, and hearing about Huff and Gibson saying, I don't know if I'll come back. If I do, it'll be because of Huff, because I love that kid. And just Huff, having an emotional moment at the Pro Bowl talking about Gibson, and now we find out that he is coming back. I'm so excited for our defense. Obviously, when we talked about this, we didn't know that we were getting Hargrove, and now that Gibson stays too, I'm just so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Gibson signing, 2.9 million, great value. I mean, great value for the production we got back there. And and obviously with Jimmy Ward heading off to Houston, that's it's a signing that for Houston makes absolute sense to me. Even with D'Amico and Jimmy Ward not necessarily always agreeing on where Jimmy Ward was going to play, that I always felt that D'Amico, that conversation went something like, we're going to sit in there and say, Jimmy, look, Tayshaun Gibson's been giving us really great production, and this is about getting the best 11, and we think you are one of the best 11 on this team, and getting the best 11 on the field. Because I always told people it was Jimmy Ward being in the slot was about the pairing of Huff, Gibson, and Ward being better than the pairing of Huff, Ward, and Samuel Womack. That's really what that pairing was about, is that it was really about Ward over Womack in the slot was a better thing than having Ward over Gibson at safety. And it wasn't necessarily a knock on Jimmy Ward of moving him to the slot. It was how good Gibson had been and how much value Jimmy Ward could add. And so Houston gets a very versatile defensive back and a guy that I think is going to help D'Amico Ryans build that culture there. But we also then get to see Tayshaun Gibson come back, who, I mean, you get the kind of production you get for $2.9 million. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, and with this news happened before only about a half hour, 40 minutes ago, we learned that Jimmy Ward is moving to the Texans. And so this is after we found out that Gibson re-signed. And so now it makes more sense. I know it's kind of different position, but hey, DB's DB, and we're just excited that we kind of knew that Jimmy Ward was probably going to be on his way out, mate, and we even kind of knew he'd probably follow D'Amico, as that's kind of how it goes. So congrats to him. You know, he gets his money and he he gets to be with D'Amico. So thanks to Jimmy Ward for all that he's done for us. I mean, that he was a team captain. He made a lot of plays in his time here. And so definitely happy for him. Um, I guess, I mean, it's kind of time to, I guess, for one of the last times, are we really going to talk about Jimmy G? And here's what I will say. So I remember when we first heard that he was coming, it was, middle of the season, and like it was kind of like this hope, because again, guys, let's really really think back. If you're a Jimmy hater, let's really think back. Didn't you really hate the team then? If you hate Jimmy, you had to have hated the situation that we were in before Jimmy. You had to have. If you're a Niner fan and you don't like Jimmy, then were you just like punching yourself in the face every day with our Niner team that we had? It was so much
Oh dear
worse.
Lord.
Like, what
Oh
were you
dear Lord.
doing? Like, no, be honest with yourself. If you're a Jimmy hater and you're in the chat, tell me, what were you doing with life before Jimmy came, right before he came? Didn't you hate life? It was bleak. It was bad. It was terrible. And then, chat or Johnny, remind me, how many games in a row did he win to start his career with us? 8? What was it?
It was 6.
6 games in a row. Now, come on. You have to at least say, you talk about hope, right? Think of all of the great movies. Think of all of the great storylines where hope shines through. And it was just unbelievable to have that feeling again and to wear your Niner gear with a little bit of pride and not have someone make fun of you when you're walking down the street. Like, it was nice, right? And then yes, he makes mistakes. I was at the game in Tennessee where George Kittle is not open in the end zone and he throws the ball anyway. I was at that game. Like, I get it. Some of his fumbles, some of the interceptions at inopportune times, I completely get it. But the guy's record is 38 and 17. And I just think like he definitely gets a bad rap. And I salute to Jimmy Garoppolo. I wish him well, unless he's playing against us. Then I hope we sack him 8 times and he throws for 97 yards the whole game. But other than that, man, I want to see that guy successful. And so I'll leave it to the chat. I'll leave it to you guys. Johnny, you take it.
Man, see, here's the thing though. You started saying it was the Jimmy G haters. Remember, there the fan base is split, and there's very few people who will say I'm a Jimmy G hater or I'm a Jimmy G lover. Okay. There's very few people. There's people who say I'm just calling it how it is. All right.
Fair.
Chat, call it how it is. Was Jimmy overrated by the fan base? Was he underrated by the fan base? Let's hear what I think. Things might get a little spicy in the chat. No matter how you feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, he has probably created more talk about the 49ers from the fan base than any other quarterback we've had, at least. And it may be the rise of social media and that the fan base conversation is now more public than it was, than say when it was Joe Montana, Steve Young, or when Jeff Garcia and Tim Rattay, or Smith and Kaepernick, right? Like, so, Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those things that I said he was going to get paid more than he did get paid with us. That's turned out to be true. I also, we talked about it, was it like 2 weeks ago, said that there was rumors about him possibly going to the Raiders. And I said that absolutely made sense, because from everything we understand, that Josh McDaniels was really high on him in New England, that it was because of Tom Brady and him wanting to be the unquestioned guy in New England that Jimmy got moved along. But they were also keeping Jimmy as long as they could in New England as insurance if Tom got hurt. But they literally waited up until the very last day they could trade him, because he was Tom's insurance. And that's how much they believed in Jimmy G. And then they traded him for a second-round pick, and then we gave him the big contract. No matter how you feel about Jimmy G, and you can, it's like Mike McGlinchey, you can go and you can find enough reps of Jimmy G to make the argument that he's a really bad quarterback. You can find also enough tape on Jimmy G to make the argument that he's a really, really good quarterback. I think the truth is somewhere in between, is that Jimmy G, I think at times, has played at a very high level. He's also had moments where he's played at a very low level. That's been the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. As much as the fan base, it's been as polarizing as the fan base, his performance, because he's proven everybody right. At some point, Jimmy G proved everybody right. If you thought he was the worst quarterback we've had for the last 15 years, at some point he might prove you right. If you thought he was the best quarterback we've had since Jeff Garcia or even Steve Young, at some point he was going to prove you right. We do have to remember that he had some of the best games of 49ers history. You talk about games with 5 touchdown passes. That doesn't just happen. Okay. He had games over 400 yards passing. That's a big deal. We were also a team that, where I appreciate Jimmy G, is just like you said, is that we were a team that was terrible in 2017. That team was horrible. We were literally, it was like the rumors at the time was, I believe it was tank for Goff. That was the year before. No, Goff was before that, but it was like tanking for a quarterback. Like that was the thing as us as a fan base. And then we trade for Jimmy G, and we actually won, and we actually looked good as a team. And it was suddenly, oh wait, we may not have to wait 4 years for a rebuild. With the moment Jimmy G walked into that quarterback room, the franchise became different. Whether you think that's all because of Jimmy G or not, it's a fact. And again, it's not all because of Jimmy G, but here's why it made a difference, is because the organization believed in him enough that they invested to make a run. And that's why the team turned around. They decided we didn't have to play 3 years of slow build through the draft to become relevant. They said, we have our quarterback. That's the biggest question that you have to answer. So let's go build a team. And that's when we went out. We gave the big contract to Jerick McKinnon. Obviously, that didn't work out. But you're seeing with Christian McCaffrey this season what the vision that Kyle had with that. We went out and signed Weston Richburg. Okay, we got Richard Sherman. Remember, that was because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Sherman said he came here because of Jimmy Garoppolo. What did the Richard Sherman signing do for the 49ers culture here, of bringing a guy in that had won a Super Bowl, that had been to another Super Bowl? Okay, and what did it do to the defense and the back end to say we are now serious in what we are doing?
Completely. And that's the thing that I will at least give him so much props, is also you cannot write a negative story about anything as far as the way he has handled himself in interviews, and he's never been a locker room distraction, even when the way that they treated him, and he's out there throwing passes like on the side, like away from practice, but didn't hear a peep, didn't like, there wasn't, how come there's no camera shots of Jimmy like rolling his eyes or having a smirk in practice, like oh, like how come there is no footage of that? Because guys, he didn't do it. He was positive. He was a good teammate. Those guys love him in that locker room. And yeah, they know it's the nature of the beast and it's kind of the business, but man, he meant something to the team for sure. And that's why I wish him well unless he's playing us. I
Right.
mean, that's just where we're at.
And I've been at times I've been really high on Jimmy Garoppolo. At times I've been extremely frustrated by Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think
And he deserved
much
it. He
that's
deserved
much of the
both.
fan base, right? Right, that's much of the fan base. My biggest frustration was that he just couldn't stay healthy, and it was like, dude, you just can't stay on the field, and that's a frustration. Yes, there was some of the bonehead plays, but I mean, before we lost him this season, like we were seeing that wasn't happening. He had that check down option. We were rolling. We're winning games and then he goes down, unfortunately. But the Jimmy Garoppolo experience was definitely one we will remember. I think again the truth lies somewhere in the middle with our fan base. He's not anywhere close to and I saw it in Torero Dome. I love you, buddy. You've been a great supporter of the channel. I will not agree that Jimmy G was garbage. I can't get there. Just because there was too many good things he did, and there was too many good things he's done for this franchise. In the end, thankful for Jimmy G, what he brought to this franchise, how that he made the franchise believe they could be winners, and they built a winner. Again, that cannot be understated. That we sit there and go, well, it wasn't because of Jimmy G. He was the trailer, not the truck, that got us into this playoffs. But you go, yeah, but they don't build that whole machine to get into the playoffs if they don't believe in Jimmy G. I mean, why do we go and we trade for and sign D Ford going into 2019 if you don't believe that Jimmy Garoppolo can get you to a Super Bowl? If they don't believe that, that doesn't happen. If you don't have D Ford, that we don't get those games of dominance from the defensive front. That's what Jimmy G brought. Okay, is bringing this thing where the team believes in they can go win a Super Bowl because they have somebody under center that they can do it with, and how that's created the culture of the team. And we had a lot of victory Mondays because of this. Okay, um, we went through a lot of really non-victory Mondays with Chip Kelly, right? And I don't want to go back to that. And that didn't
Tom
change.
Sula.
And Tom Sula and 2017, that did not change until Jimmy Garoppolo walked in the door. And then when he was gone, when he wasn't on the field, we went back to that. So, it changed the culture, but I'm thankful we have Brock Purdy and that we have Trey Lance. We have two really good options at quarterback going forward. And so, yes, I wish Jimmy Garoppolo all the best. I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he's going to be a starter somewhere. He does deserve to be a starter in this league. That is something that I won't back down from. But he deserves to be a starter in this league, and I'm glad that he's going to a system that a team that is ripe with talent. I think it's going to be a great spot for him to be. But man, I'm excited about what we have at quarterback. We got a great quarterback room. We really do. Brock needs to get healthy. Trey needs to get reps. Sam Darnold needs to be ready. And that's what's gotta happen, right? So I'm thankful for Jimmy G, but I'm also really excited about our own quarterback room and where we're going. And again, we are going for it. We're pursuing this year. You get the big free agent signing with Hargrave. I right tackles that question, but I think in everything, the 49ers front office has really been doing a really good job during this offseason. And it'll be really interesting to see what they do during the draft. I saw somebody put in the chat that possibly Burford might get kicked out to right tackle. I think that is an option. Burford has the size and the measurables to play right tackle. Uh, they were doing that switching back and forth between him and Brunskill. I think you could kick Burford out and you'd be just fine. I think Colton McKivitz is going to get the first shot at that role, though. I really do, and I think they believe in him. So it's gonna be a fun ride this season. I think we're set up. We just need to start fast, and that's what I just want to see from the team. As we've had 2 seasons in a row where we have not started fast. We need to start fast this season, and we're retooling. We are not rebuilding like the Rams are. So a big shout out in the chat to always faithful 24/7 guys. I need to get on your show. We need to hook up. Send me a DM on Twitter. We'll collab. 'Cause I hop into their show, in their chat every once in a while when I can catch it. They do a great job. Always good to see some other creators in the chat.
Of
Um,
course.
but yeah, overall, man, I think it's going to be great. What would be the cherry on the top for me is an edge, and I'm looking at either like Dante Fowler or Arden Key. I think both those guys are going to come at a good value. I think that happens later in free agency, where it's going to be this wave of seeing the top tiers goes and everything. So let's that to me would be like the cherry on the top. Boom, I'm ready to go. Let's add depth in the draft and let's get the season started.
Yeah, we're future so bright. We got to wear shades, right? Love it. One thing that I want to point out about uh, Jimmy too is at Rita Oak, as we all know, has been drawing Jimmy G every day until he's traded. And it's also adds to that like bittersweet. Like I kind of woke up in the morning and looked forward to just seeing the
What
funny way,
What was
right?
Rita gonna do today? Yeah, and I will
Yeah,
tell you, the one if you haven't seen it yet, the one that she did for this was perfect.
it
Okay,
was.
it's Shawshank Redemption, almost like this idea of Jimmy being free and having to have gone through that whole, tunnel of crap, literally sewage to get where he is, and, I mean, Jimmy's been through some stuff, and so, I thought it was just a real good kind of encapsulation way to end it. I wonder how long she's been planning for as like known that was the one. I just
Oh,
wonder.
right. Because it has been 404 days. And so, as your math checks out, that is over a year. And we thought a year ago that he would be traded. And I don't think that she was doing this thinking that it would take over like this amount of time. I wouldn't think. And
No, she
so,
went into it thinking it was gonna be a couple weeks, right? Because we all thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was gonna be gone last free agency, and then he has a shoulder surgery. And again, this also proves because there was this argument that was going around social media, and it drove me nuts, which was every time you talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, is, well, then why didn't anybody sign him last year? Nobody wants the guy, and it would say, no, it was the guy had shoulder surgery. He can't pass a physical. He cannot be traded, and no team is going to sign off on the waivers it would take to trade for him when they don't know if he has a functional shoulder.
right.
That's what it was. You obviously see from this, he got a starter's salary. I mean, and it was in like it was as quickly as you could sign a guy.
Yeah,
So
day one.
obviously, like, and very early on in day one, like, I mean, it was like Hargrave news dropped, and then like 20 minutes later, Jimmy G to the Raiders, and I'm assuming that was it. That was probably a multi-hour back and forth between the Raiders and the Texans. Again, D'Amico Ryan's one of the guy. He played against him every day in practice for 2 years, right? Like if there's anybody who knew Jimmy's limitations, it was D'Amico Ryan's, and he still wanted him. Okay, so that should speak to what the league thinks of Jimmy G. Um, but man, thank you, Jimmy G, for your service. Almost like the which I feel like we should have taps playing, right?
Right. Just a
With
salute,
Jimmy G
man.
going
Just
on. But a lot of good things there, and I can't dog on the guys he's on his way out after all the good times we've had with him. I mean, yeah, there's been epic frustration with him. I will still be very frustrated by that stinking fumble he had against Green Bay. Like, how do you even? But then he's also made some really fantastic plays. I mean, some just amazing throws.
darts.
And as somebody who watched the film on him, there was a lot to like. But thank you, Jimmy G, for helping turn the franchise around. But man, we're going forward. And I like what we got. I like what we have in the cupboard.
Yep. And we like what we have in the chat. Thank you again to everyone who has been in the chat. It's been crazy tonight. It's been awesome. We love it. Again, please make sure that you're subscribed and that you hit that bell. We want you to be notified because we want you here with us whenever that whenever that we can go live, we want you guys with us. Remember to pick up us wherever you can as far as getting your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, like, subscribe, give us the review, because we want to grow this out and make it even bigger and better so that we can get some really crazy awesome guests. If one day we just Joe Montana shows up, how nuts would that be? Well, it happens when you guys tell your friends to like and share and blow this up to 9 billion followers, right? It's a lot easier to get Joe Montana if that happens. So please, we want to grow the channel for you. We have fun. I'll be honest, guys. Johnny and I have fun just talking to each other, like that, but it's more fun when we grow it, right? That's faithful. So again, thank you for joining us on Will Clark's 59th birthday. Faithful to the Bay. Happy birthday to Will the Thrill. Thank you for joining us. Take care of each other. And as always, go Niners.